so for this week's Just One Quilt film, we've got the amazing Stephanie with her award-winning quilt behind her. It's really nice how we met, isn't it?
It is. Really cool.
So Stephanie lives in Denver and bought my Hepworth apron pattern and sewed it up for all your friends.
Yes, pretty much. Yes, I got on a roll and started making them for everybody I love.
Yeah, and then we got in touch just a few weeks before and realised we were both coming to QuiltCon, didn't we? And here we are. So that's really nice.
U.S. and the pioneering times that women would get together. That was the only time they could interact with other women. They were done their housework and whatever, and they would quilt. And usually the quilt they were working on would be going either to somebody in the group or to someone, associated with those groups of people. And, we don't always get to sit with our friends and quilt anymore. Most of us do it separately. But the connection is that, I would give you a quilt, or I would give somebody that I love or know. And I've given my friends quilts. So this year I gave away several to friends that are also quilters, because I know that they understand why I made it and why I wanted them to have it. I was a maker before I was a doctor, so even as a little kid I was always sewing really awful clothes together, and then from there just sort of kept making things. I've always given handmade things, and I don't know, I just sort of settled on fabric as a good medium for expression.
Yeah. And did you have quilts in your life growing up? Were there quilts in your home?
No, I had no quilters in my family whatsoever, although when I was younger I was given an antique quilt, probably a Revolutionary War quilt, by my grandmother. I sort of started quilting in earnest maybe about 6 or 7 years ago. Before that I had made quilts. When each child was born, they each got a quilt, and then they got to be about 4 and decided the quilt that I made for them was not sufficient and began to ask. So my son has several. My daughter has about a half dozen. I think I approach things a little bit differently because I never have a sketch in advance. I just start pulling colors and composing as I go. So my preference is improv quilting. Even this quilt is done that way. So I'm often surprised when I'm done. It's like, oh, that looks done, I'll stop now. So I don't ever know what size it's going to be. I don't ever know what it's going to look like. It's been a really great journey for me. My kids are very supportive. They've come to a couple of shows. They usually don't stay for very long, but at least they're there to support me. And I think, maybe the hardest thing for my friends who are quilters and me is if you give someone a quilt and their first reaction is to fold it up and put it in a closet, which is what my mother did to the quilt that I was given. And I think that's a shame. I want them out there. I don't care if they get stains on them. I want to make sure the binding gets repaired at least a couple times in its lifetime, because it means it's loved and, it has some emotional connection to the person that got it. I want my quilts to, be in the car when you're traveling and to be thrown over a child, or to go to a sporting event or a soccer game and to be sat on and to have a red wine spilled on it as you're toasting a celebration. So that wouldn't upset you? You would like to see? No. Yeah, because so then when that quilt hopefully goes to wherever it goes next, they can talk about those. I think that's part of it. Like when you have something that you love and you take it everywhere and it gets worn, and then you remember the time it got rained on, or the time that somebody bumped into you and spilled something on it. But it makes its story richer.
Well, they literally soak up your experiences, don't they? The fabric
Absolutely.
of your life as you go along, experiencing something that's reflected. And
literally and figuratively both. Yeah, they need to go out in the world. People need to see them and talk about them and touch them and wrap themselves in them. Yeah. I just hope people like them because they have a reaction to them in some way. And, I don't know. I hope that when I'm gone, at least my quilting friends can find the perfect place for the ones that my family doesn't know what to do with.